Welcome to British Accent Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to British Accent Podcast, the place where we help you improve your English in fun and effective ways. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jake.
Today, we're diving into a topic that so many language learners love: books.
Reading is one of the best ways to improve your English, but how can you make sure you're learning the most from it?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about today: how to use books to boost your English skills, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced learner. So grab your favorite book and let's get started.
All right, let's start with a big question. What kind of books should English learners read? Some people say you should start with children's books, while others suggest rated readers or even novels.
What's the best choice?
Great question. The answer really depends on your level. If you're a beginner, children's books can be a great option because they use simple vocabulary and short sentences. But as you progress, graded readers or even adapted versions of classic novels can help you expand your vocabulary without feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. And for intermediate and advanced learners, reading books written for native speakers can be super beneficial, but it's important to choose wisely.
If you pick something too difficult, it can be frustrating, and you might give up.
That's why it's important to find a balance. A good rule of thumb is the 5-finger rule. If you find more than 5 new words on a page, the book might be too hard for you at the moment. But if you only find a couple of new words, it's a great challenge without being overwhelming.
That's a great tip.
Now, let's talk about how to actually use books to improve your English.
Should learners stop and translate every word they don't know?
Not necessarily. If you stop too often, it can interrupt the flow of reading, and you might lose motivation. Instead, try to guess the meaning of new words from context. If you really don't understand a word and it's important to the story, then you can look it up.
Right.
And another helpful technique is to write down new words and phrases, but not just as a list.
Try writing a sentence with each new word to help you remember how to use it naturally.
Yes, and don't forget about pronunciation. If you're reading a book, you're probably not hearing the words, so using audiobooks or reading out loud can help with pronunciation and fluency.
Great point. And for those who struggle to stay motivated, joining a book club or discussing books with a friend can make reading more engaging and fun.
Absolutely. Learning English through books doesn't have to be a boring, solo activity. Now, let's get into some specific book recommendations for different levels.
All right, let's break it down by level. If you're a beginner, some great books to start with are The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Cole or Charlotte's Web by E.B.
White. These books have simple sentence structures, basic vocabulary, and engaging stories.
Yes, and for beginners who want something designed specifically for learning English, graded readers are a fantastic option. Publishers like Oxford, Cambridge, and Penguin have books with different difficulty levels, so you can gradually challenge yourself as you improve.
Exactly. Now, for intermediate learners, I'd recommend books like The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time by Mark Haddon or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.S.K. Rowling. These books have a richer vocabulary and more complex sentence structures, but they're still accessible.
Those are great picks. Another good choice for intermediate learners is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's written in a simple yet poetic style, and the story is really inspiring, which makes it an enjoyable read.
Love that one. Now, for advanced learners, we're talking about books written entirely for native speakers, like 1984 by George Orwell, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, or even non-fiction books like Atomic Habits by James Clear.
These books will challenge you and can also expand your vocabulary in a natural way.
Yes, and if you want to improve specific areas of your English, you can also try books on grammar, business English, or even self-help books written in English. The key is to pick something that genuinely interests you so that reading doesn't feel like a chore.
Exactly.
And remember, the goal is to enjoy reading while learning, not to stress over every word you don't know.
Keep a reading habit, choose books wisely, and make sure to engage with the language in different ways, like writing about what you read or discussing it with friends.
That's a great point. And speaking of making reading more effective, let's talk about some techniques that can help learners get the most out of their books. One method I really like is active reading. Instead of just reading passively, try underlining new words, summarizing paragraphs in your own words, or even predicting what will happen next in the story.
Yes.
Another great technique is shadowing reading aloud while following along with an audiobook. This helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and fluency.
It's a fantastic way to internalize natural sentence structures.
I love that. And if you're struggling with comprehension, don't be afraid to read books in parallel. You can have an English version and a translation side by side. Just be careful not to rely too much on translation. Try to guess meanings from context first.
Right, because the goal is to think in English.
Another thing that helps is keeping a vocabulary journal. Whenever you come across a new word, write it down along with its meaning and an example sentence. But don't just list words, review them regularly and try using them in your own writing and speaking.
That's super helpful. And speaking of writing, another powerful way to reinforce what you read is to keep a reading journal. Write short summaries of each chapter, your thoughts on the characters, or even your favorite quotes. This can improve both your comprehension and writing skills.
Exactly. And if you want to take it to the next level, try discussing the book with someone. Join a book club, talk about it with a study partner, or even record yourself summarizing the story in English. The more you engage with the material, the better you'll retain it.
That's such a great tip. Engaging in discussions helps you not only understand the book better, but also practice expressing your thoughts in English. And if you don't have a study partner, you can always write a review online or even post your thoughts on a forum or social media. It's a great way to interact with other learners and native speakers.
Absolutely. And for those who struggle to stay motivated, setting reading goals can make a big difference.
For example, you could aim to read a certain number of pages per day, finish one book per month, or even complete a series in a year.
Tracking your progress keeps you accountable and makes learning feel more structured.
Yes, and don't be afraid to experiment with different genres. Some people find fiction more engaging, while others prefer non-fiction, biographies, or self-improvement books. The key is to find something you genuinely enjoy, because if you're having fun, you'll naturally learn more.
That's a great point.
And one last tip: reread your favorite books. The first time, you might focus on understanding the story. But the second time, you can pay attention to the details, grammar structures, and vocabulary.
Each time you read, you'll notice new things and deepen your learning.
That's so true. Rereading a book in English can be like peeling back layers. You start noticing expressions, idioms, and sentence structures that you didn't catch the first time. And the best part, since you already know the storyline, you can focus on improving your language skills without struggling too much with comprehension.
Exactly.
And another cool trick is listening to the audiobook while reading.
This helps with pronunciation and intonation, making it feel more like a natural learning process.
Plus, it's a great way to train your ears to recognize different accents and speaking styles.
That's a fantastic idea. Audiobooks are especially helpful for learners who struggle with silent reading or who just prefer an interactive way of learning. Plus, hearing the book read aloud by a native speaker can really boost your listening skills.
And if you're someone who finds it hard to sit down and read for long periods, you can start with shorter material, short stories, articles, or even children's books.
The important thing is to build a habit and stay consistent.
Yes, consistency is key. And once you get into the rhythm of reading regularly, you'll start noticing improvements in your vocabulary, comprehension, and even writing skills. Reading in English truly opens up so many opportunities for learning.
Absolutely. And the best part is that reading in English doesn't have to feel like studying. It can be an enjoyable and natural way to improve your language skills. Just find books that interest you, and the learning will come effortlessly.
That's the key. So, whether you start with short stories, novels, or even audiobooks, the important thing is to stay consistent and enjoy the process. Learning English through books is a journey, not a race.
Exactly. And that's a wrap for today's episode.
We hope you found these tips helpful and feel inspired to pick up a book in English.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with a friend.
Yes, and let us know what's the last book you read in English. Send us a message or comment on our socials. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on British Accent Podcast.
Happy reading.
Bye.